Hi, today we're going to read the book Where the Wild Things Are. It's written by Maurice Sendak, and he also drew the pictures. Here's the cover. Where the Wild Things Are. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. He's chasing the dog. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. He looks pretty grumpy. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew. Oh, look at that. There's some trees. And grew. His room is changing. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines, and the walls became the world all around. Wow, there's no room anymore. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max. And he sailed off through night and day. And in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. Ooh. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all of their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. There's Max. Oh, they're all scared of him. And made him king of all wild things. "And now," said Max, "let the wild rumpus start." Look at that. They're jumping up and down and looking at the moon and howling, it looks like. Oh, next picture, they're hanging on the trees, see? And then they had a big parade, it looks like. There they go. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up, we love you so." But Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. He sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. The end. Now I'm going to show you some of the signs I used in that book. Now I used a lot of signs, so I'm going to show you just enough signs that you can match up some of the words, so maybe some of the most important signs. If you want to watch the video more and pick up some of the other signs, you can do that. But these are some that will help you be able to read the book and sign at the same time using sign-supported speech. So for the wild things, if you take 3 fingers like this and kind of do them like monstery claws, that's a sign for monster, and I use that for wild things because that's sort of what they mean. The sign for night comes up a couple of times in this book, and it's showing like the sun going down, so you make it go down under the horizon. That's night. The sign for wolf is like you're pretending your head is a wolf, and this is your long wolf nose, like that. The sign for mischief is the 3-hand like we did for monster, but you do it up here and it's like your little devil horns. That means mischief that Max was getting into. Mother is this, with your whole hand on your chin. And then he was sent to bed. We can do a little flick like this with our hand. That means like sent away. I use it later also when he sends the monsters off to bed without their supper. And the sentence about he was sent to bed without, what the exact words are. The words say he was sent to bed without eating anything. And so I use the sign for eat and then nothing. So without eating anything is the same idea as eating nothing. The sign for his room, you make 2 walls like this and 2 walls like that. Just like you're making the walls of a room. Then the sign for forest, you probably know the sign for tree. I think most people do by now. And this is tree. For forest, you just go like sort of tree, 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 and make them go across. That shows a lot of trees. And when it talks about a forest growing, the sign for just a plant growing is sort of like this. But for the forest growing, I like to show that it grew and grew. All the different trees grew and grow big. And you can show that a little bit with your hand, show this very wild forest growing. For vines, you can use your pinky fingers to show like thin vines going, or you can make like a circle to show like a thick vine, and you're showing them growing, like you can just show where they are on the ceiling like that. Vines growing. And the sign for wall is like you're showing a flat surface in front of you, like where they would be touching the wall. The sign for ocean is a W for water on your mouth. That means that's any kind of water. And the sign for ocean is water plus waves. And you can show the waves tumbling by like that. When you sign boat, that's two hands like this. And that's any kind of boat. But in this story, the boat's going across the ocean. He's traveling, so you can show the boat rocking on the waves. You can show it traveling from one place to another. You can take your time and kind of paint a picture with the boat. Then when he gets to where the wild things are, the wild things roar their terrible roars. You can show like a big sound coming out of the mouth like this, or this is kind of the sound for shouting. So you could do either one of those if you like, to show that they're using big voices. And then when they gnash their terrible teeth, this is any kind of chewing or gnashing. This is like your top teeth and your bottom teeth. You kind of do them like this. And they rolled their terrible eyes. I like to show that. For each of these, I kind of like to show what it is. So you make like big circle eyes, and you can show them rolling around. And then showed their terrible claws. I like to just kind of pretend I'm trying to threaten somebody with my scary claws. And then when Max says be still, this is a sign for like settle down. So I use that for be still. And then it says he stared into their eyes. So if you look, make two fingers come up from your eyes, that means to look at something. So that would just be just looking. But if you stare, you can show in your face what staring looks like. And he's looking around at all of them. So you show that intense look at all the different wild things. And they were frightened. This is scared. You have your hands closed and you open them up. That's frightened or scared, which mean the same thing. Then when Max becomes king, this is the letter K with two fingers up. Start from your shoulder and go down to your hip, sort of like you're a king with a sash, because kings sometimes wear a sash. I mean, king of all wild things. And now, that's a great sign to know. Two-letter Ys that come down with your palms facing you. Now, let the wild rumpus start. For rumpus, I use party. That's a letter P, which is two fingers pointing down. It's like two people dancing together at a party. And then there's some pictures without any words, but if you want to talk about what's happening, this is a sign for jumping. And then when somebody's hanging like from their arms from a tree, you can make like a tree branch and hang like this. So I do that one for the one where they're all hanging from the trees. And the sign for parade, you make kind of like, it's like four people, and they're marching in a parade, one behind each other. So that's kind of what it looks like to me in that picture. And then Max said for them to stop. He says, now stop. So we do like this, like your hand's a pathway, and you're making a big barrier for stopping people. Now stop. And then there's some of the same words about going to bed without their supper. I just use eat for supper there, without any food to eat. And then Max was lonely. The sign for lonely is one finger on your lips like you're saying shush, but you kind of make a little circle with it like this. That means lonely. And he wanted to be where someone loved him. Want is like you're pulling something towards you. And love is like this. Max wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. And then far away, two thumbs, pull apart, far away, he smelled good things to eat. Sort of like you're wafting a smell near your nose. He smelled good things to eat. And then the wild things said, please don't go. So they said, please rub your chest. Don't go. They don't want him to go. And we'll eat you up. Oh, that's like eating, but you put your two hands going past your face like this. You're going to eat something up like that. And Max said, no. That's two fingers and your thumb. Nope. And then he sailed in the boat, same as before. And his supper was waiting for him. You can just wiggle your fingers and your two hands like that. His supper was waiting for him, and it was still hot. Hot is like you take a bite of something and it's too hot, so you pull it out of your mouth. It was still hot. The end. All right, hope you enjoyed that book. Bye-bye.